Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to be doing Spilling the Tea of Inquiry with Branwen. So really glad you're all able to make it. And for anyone who's able to watch the recording later as well, welcome. We're going to open with prayer, and I'm going to use one of my favorites, my Magdalena prayer. Blessed Mother, Mary Magdalene, help us to speak our truth at all costs. We know that our voices are needed, and we have the power to affect all. Grant us the grace to use our voices wisely, to utter the alchemical spells that have yet to pass through our lips. We can feel that the world is hungry for our sacred, authentic integration. May we use our strength as a sword to liberate, to cut off the shackles that bind. Open our hearts wide to let our true embodiment of love pour through us. We hear in our hearts the clarion call for our insight and our empathy, our clear seeing and clear seeking. This world is ours to explore and to create. We do so now with consciousness and compassion, creating heaven on earth, which then reflects in the cosmos. We strive to soften fully into our anthropos, for we are both beautifully human and gloriously divine. Our bodies are our temples, our homes are our temples, and the universe is our temple. Blessed be and blessed becoming. Tara, Tara. Amen. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen here.
Becca, what is that closing "tara tara"? What does that mean?
So it means it's from a book series that I read, Ink and Honey, and it was an old witchy grandmother, and she would close with "tara tara," and she said that it meant, as I have said it, as I have spoken, and now so it is. So it was like her little
I like it.
catchphrase. I do too. So I just kind of took it on as my own as well. All right, can everyone see my screen? Awesome. Uh, I am going to admit I've been feeling very nervous about this. I hope you all have your tea in front of you. Mine has some nervines in there to help calm me down a little bit for our meeting today. But I'm very excited to share something that I'm so passionate about and something that has been such a part of my life for most of my life. I've always been interested in herbs and their medicinal properties. And then as I got older, I got really interested in a lot of their spiritual and magical properties as well. To start, because I'm a clinical herbalist, I'm going to put out my medical disclaimer, just letting everybody know that a lot of herbs can influence your body systems in ways that can interact with or counteract your prescription medications. So if you're taking prescription medications, just do a little research before you try anything new. If you are concerned and have questions, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm always available to do a quick review for you based on your prescriptions. And I have a great big Bible of medications and their contraindications with herbs. So I'm always happy to be a resource on that front. And if you're ever talking to anyone about doing teas when they're pregnant or nursing, that's also a big contraindication for a lot of herbs. So we are going to talk about some different ways that we can use tea in ritual. We have our moon tea and sun tea, which are just overnight long steep decoctions. And then a hot infusion tea, which is what most people know, is just doing it in a cup. But there are some techniques that can help make your tea a little more efficacious when you're doing a hot steep as well. We're going to talk a little bit about tea ceremony, crystal grids, and gem water, as well as some add-ins to tea. And then we have reading tea leaves, which is known as tasseography or tasseomancy, if you want to go with the technical term for it. I have been experimenting with scrying with tea. And then also I do a lot of ceremonial hair and body rinses and baths. Our Henrietta has an amazing goal in life to work with women, and I'll let her share that at some point, what she's looking to do. But foot washes and foot baths have been a new place I've started exploring with tea as well. Anointing with tea, home cleaning and cleansing, and then exploring ritual with coffee. Janet, you're set, and cacao as well. And then just a couple of brief ideas for art and painting and crafts and how to use tea in that process too. So I thought I was really prepared for this gathering, and I got my slides all ready to go a couple of weeks ago, and then information just kept pouring into my tea practice. As I started exploring, it became this consuming, inspirational, just wild things would come into my awareness as I went along in my tea practice, in my dreams, in my deep soul writing. I mean, you would think I'd ask for help in creating like a 6-week deep intensive rather than a quick little thing on tea. So I have tried to condense as much as I can and just take highlights from things. So there's so much to explore that we're just going to briefly touch on. But what I really had to do is step back and ask, what do we need to know now? And so that's how I came up with what we're going to talk about today, is just what we need to know now, where we are in our practice, and a good starting point for folks who haven't had as much experience with herbs or with tea. So I want to show the potential of what can be as far as developing a relationship and an alliance with herbs on our spiritual journeys, because they are here to help us. They really are. The plant people are under our feet, waiting for us to take notice. So for the moon and sun tea, we're just going to briefly touch on how we go through the process. So it works really well for leaves, flowers, berries, soft stems, anything that contains volatile oils and water-soluble vitamins and minerals. Those do really well in a cold water decoction because it retains those volatile oils a little better for you. It works really well with the moon phases. If you want to include the moon phase in your intention, if you want to focus on certain times of the moon phase and incorporate that into your moon tea, it's a great way to incorporate crystal grids. I have this lovely teapot here that I do both hot and cold decoctions in, and so I can do crystal grids on the top. I can do grids around it. If you have crystals that are water safe, if you know your gem waters and you know quartz works and things, you can potentially use them in your tea. But if you have a hot decoction, be careful because it can crack or split your crystals. But using the cold tea, the cold decoction, is such a great way to incorporate those things because you don't have to worry about damaging your crystals and things while you're doing it as well. So you want to add your plant material in a jar. With the cold decoction, I would go a little overboard on the herbs because it's going to sit there for a while, but it's not going to draw everything out the same way that a hot water decoction does. So you can bump up your dried plant material a little bit. And then you're going to want to cover it with a lid, surround it with any crystals that you want to use for an indirect gem elixir. Leave it on a windowsill or outdoors overnight so that it's in direct moonlight, and then you'll want to retrieve it early in the morning. It's really fantastic for deeply nourishing herbs like nettle, milky oats, raspberry leaf. But it's not the greatest for bitter herbs because they sit there for a really long time and it gets really bitter. So for anything like mugwort or skullcap or burdock, any of those bitter roots or herbs, they can be a little too strong if you leave them overnight. Sun tea is a very similar process, but you're going to do that out in the daytime, out in the sun. That's more of a warm decoction. And I tend not to use a lot of fresh plant material when I'm doing sun tea because it gets a little mucky and swampy if you leave fresh herbs sitting out in the sun for a while. It kind of turns into swamp water. So dried herbs tend to work a little bit better with sun tea. But it's a great way to bring in divine masculine energy into your work, and those intentions as well. Um, both types of tea work beautifully with dried, and moon tea works very well with fresh herbs and fruits and all sorts of things. And then you can also use these for your teas, your hair washes, your home cleansing, painting supplies, etc. And what's nice about that is you don't have to wait for things to cool either. If you're doing something like your door frame washes, you don't have to worry about it peeling your paint if you use a cool concoction of tea. So to hot brew and retain your volatile oils, things like peppermint, those really fragrant scents, your basils and everything, those have very volatile oils in them. And if you leave your tea uncovered while it's steeping, all of those just evaporate off. So you're losing the efficacy of your tea. Even if you're just like here, if I was doing it in my little teacup, I would just take the saucer and put it over the top to retain the oils in it while it's steeping for you. And that retains medicinal efficacy as well as, I think, a lot of the magical, mystical properties of what you're looking to do as well. It keeps it all contained for you. Hot brew is better for your roots and barks and seeds and things that aren't going to steep well in a cold concoction or a decoction. They really, for the really heavy duty, tough roots and barks, you actually probably want to boil them directly in the water for up to 10 minutes to get what you need out of it, but you want to cover that too, to make sure you're getting all of your chemical constituents out of those roots. So we're going to talk a little bit about tea ceremony and some of the other things that we touched on there with tea in general. There are very formalized tea ceremonies out there that take time and reverence and practice and precision, and they can be amazing, and they definitely take you to a meditative state, but they take more time and energy than I think we're looking to exert on a daily basis. And this is really a process that I think can be so beneficial if we can do it on the daily. So we're going to focus more on intention than ceremony. Setting an intention and holding on to a question for yourself, focusing on the present moment, even for just a few minutes, can work magic on your day. And ceremony can also involve using the same beautiful teacup, sitting in the same chair, lighting a candle, stirring your spoon, docile or widdershins, depending on whether you're looking to manifest something or cut cords. Using all of your senses, sight, smell, touch, taste, hearing, your intuition, involve all of those in your tea drinking process and just be present. And the other step that I've started incorporating is I utilize tea anointing to bless my body and to open up the third eye. So I'll just dip my finger in my tea and I'll just touch it to my third eye. And sometimes I'll touch it to my lips and I'll touch it to my heart. And when I'm doing tea ceremony with somebody else, I will do that for them. It's usually my daughter. She likes doing full moon ceremonies and things with me. And then she will do the same for me in turn. And there's something so sacred in sharing that with another person as well. It feels quite intimate and like an act of service, which I really love. And then you always want to end with appreciation and gratitude. And quite often I will also take my tea leaves and offer them up to my house plants or nature spaces, depending on where I am, as a part of my closing offering, just to continue my intention and to involve the nature beings around me in my process. So some of the other ritual uses that we listed before with crystal grids, gem water add-ins, we talked about crystal grids, we talked about how to utilize crystals, but we didn't talk about which kinds. And I want for everyone to be able to explore that on their own. We're not going to give a bunch of specifics on you use this crystal for this, you use this crystal for this, because it's an exploration. And so use your intuition and choose what seems to fit for you. If you don't know whether it's water safe, don't put it in your tea. You can put it on top, you can put it next to it, however you want to integrate it. But use your own intuition and your sense of wonder and exploration to decide which crystals you want to use and in what formations. If you want to know more about the crystal grids, I know Caitlin is an amazing resource for that. So I know she's always excited to talk crystals and crystal grids as well. So the other thing that you can do as an add-in is I use flower essences. You can use gem water if you have someone who's made a gem water specific to you, or if you enjoy making your own gem waters. You can add tinctures if you don't have a specific herb that you want to integrate into your tea, but you have the tincture, just add a couple of drops of the tincture just to add that energy into what you're doing. And there's a lovely little book on crystal grids, and all of the images that I've used, or most of the images that I've used in my information here, is from this book, The Tea Witch's Guide to Crystal Brews. And it's got beautiful imagery, and it has crystal grids, it has different tea recipes you can explore with and things. I was kind of wondering if I wanted to share that, because again, this is really about using your own knowledge and intuition and expanding your knowledge without thinking you have to follow a very set specific recipe, because that's not really our intention. But if you really feel like you are on ground zero and you don't know what you're doing on any level, and you feel like the book might help you step into that a little more confidently, it's a very good book, and it's got beautiful imagery in it as well. So this is also a great way to incorporate cacao or coffee, is experimenting with different blends and how you want to use your add-ins. I have one of the recipes that I'm sharing where I added cacao to it. After I'd steeped the herbs, strained them off, I added cacao powder. And it was such an interesting dynamic making chocolate tea. It was lovely and it was fun, and cacao has amazing spiritual properties to it. So I haven't done as much experimentation with coffee, but I feel like you could use it to make, long steep moon coffee and things. You could make coffee overnight with those same methods. Now, just stepping into reading tea leaves really briefly, I personally prefer not to have to use my teeth to strain plant matter out of my tea. I don't like that. But if anyone wants to have their tea leaves in their tea so that they can practice with tea leaf reading, What you are supposed to do is drink your tea with your intention in mind, turn your cup upside down when you're done on your saucer, and then speak your intention out loud or your question out loud. Turn the teacup over and then look at it and just figure out what you see in it. And again, because we're looking to go with our intuition, there's a lot of information out there on how to read tea leaves and the images you might see, but try using your intuition on it first and just play. Just look for faces, look for outlines, look for, the silhouettes of something, and just see how it ties into what your question is or how you could interpret that on your own without turning to a book or to the internet. And then with the scrying piece, I have been experimenting with using laurel bay leaves and true hyssop in my scrying water. So I have my scrying bowl, and then I've been using this little piece that my mom gave me from France when she went there several years ago. And so I've been making my tea in my little jar here, and then I'm just pouring it into my scrying bowl. And I've been using that to scry with the tea water in there. And it's been um it's been revolutionary to my personal process of scrying. And that has felt like a really big step for me with our classes that we've been doing. Is scrying seems to be my thing. I'm enjoying the tarot cards, and I have tarot cards and I have oracle cards, but scrying just feels like it's a lost part of me that I'm remembering. So exploring that with herbs has been awesome. It's like making me well up talking about it because it's been such um it feels like I'm coming home to myself, and like this is something I've done before. Uh then we were talking about ceremonial hair and body rinses or baths. Water is so amazing for cleansing and processing emotion. Why not incorporate tea into that? Or preparing yourself, cleansing yourself for ceremony. Incorporate a herbal hair rinse into what you're doing as you're preparing yourself. If you are looking to really release strong emotion, there are herbs that can help you to do that. And there are plants that specifically look to do things like mitigate grief. And so the more you learn, the more you're able to use those allies in your processes. When I was talking about home cleansing and clearing, you can use herbal tea as a floor or a door wash, a window wash. I've been using juniper with vinegar as my window wash, and all of my mirrors, my TV, anything that's a portal into my house. I've been using juniper as a protective wash, and it works amazingly and it smells fantastic. So once a month, I do a really good cleanup of all of our windows and door frames and um, everything else with that spray, and it's been lovely. So another way of exploring, I'm pretty sure, Janet, I don't know if you don't like tea or if you just have coffee, but I know we have some people who are not big tea drinkers. I should be able to come up with something that you guys like for everybody. But otherwise, just explore with steamed milk lattes, or you can do coffee lattes, you can do coffee with mint in it. You can try all different kinds of combinations just to find something that really works for you personally. My daughter loves making cardamom and rose lattes for our full moon ceremonies. So that's become a tradition at our house. Every month on the full moon, we do cardamom and rose lattes. And then just talking on the art and painting and crafts, we've talked in the grimoire group about utilizing ocean and river water, flower essences. We've even talked about essential oils in your painting water, but why not herbal teas too? Or you can tea stain paper, or you can take the actual herbs and use them as paintbrushes or as stamps. Just try different ways of incorporating herbs into your art practice as well. You could weave and braid flower stems into chains or mats, or I have a coaster that I made a couple of years ago, with pine needles. And so just you can add them to dream pillows. It just feels like there's so many opportunities and options out there. Witch bottles, you can use them in your witch bottles to protect your home or your property. And then we've talked a lot about making tea, but we haven't talked about what type of water. Why not use structured water? Add that element to your work as well. And really amp up what the work that you are doing with your tea. So before we talk about individual herbs and touch on those, I definitely want to make sure we have time for people to ask questions or to share what they've been doing, because I'm excited to hear what other people have been exploring with us a little bit as well. But I do have a little brief list of herbs. I kept it as brief as I could. And then I also have a couple of recipes that we can just flash through. And then I can post those recipes online and the herb list as well, so people can delve into it a little more when they want to. So if this is your first time exploring herbs, I would suggest starting with plants that develop a relationship with them as simples. And that works on multiple levels because you get to start a conversation with a plant. You get to know what it tastes like. You get to know how it feels in your body, and you get to know how it interacts. If you do a great big hodgepodge pot of all sorts of things and you have a poor reaction, you're not going to know where it's coming from. So start small, and with individual herbs, sit with it where it grows outside. Observe it, watch, look at the leaf structure, look at the petal structure, look at which insects and animals visit it, and just really get to know it on a personal level. And then explore and use your intuition to create your own personal tea blends. Don't take my tea blends as the be all end all. Those are just ones I've been experimenting with recently, and I've enjoyed the results of them, but that doesn't mean it's going to work the same way for everybody. It's the same with herbal medicine. The things I utilize on a frequent basis, I can suggest to somebody else, but we might have to tweak or experiment if it doesn't work the same way for them. So they're just a jumping off point. And it's an exciting jumping off point because there's so much that is out there to be explored. And we're just sticking to pretty to the basics as well. I wanted to stick as much to kitchen herbs as I could, but there's a lot more out there if you have the resources and the ability to get to them. Feel free to add traditional teas or tea bags as a base. Standard teas also have their own spiritual properties. Rooibos is amazing for mindfulness and dream work. Oolong tea is all about self-love, enhanced focus, mental clarity. Matcha tea brings your mind and body into harmony. And it also helps you to feel a sense of connection with the present moment. And then black tea is heavily associated with protection, grounding, cleansing. It's got that tannic acid in there that really pulls you into your body. So, use tea bags as the base. If you really want to find somewhere to start and you want something that is going to probably taste pretty good, as you start adding things, start with your favorite tea base. And then it's acceptable to add natural sweetness to your teas, especially if you're using bitters, because it makes things much more palatable. And then you don't want to, you want to be able to focus and enjoy the taste and savor it. Honey is associated with purity and divinity. It has close associations with Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, and brings in the energy of bees. I have one here that I use all the time. It's a superfood honey, and it has royal jelly and pollen and propolis with the in with the honey. So it just feels really it feels really rich. It's definitely kind of a treat because it's not the cheapest blend either, but regular honey will work, manuka honey will work. And then stevia is associated with the crown chakra, can promote feelings of contentment, motivation, and safety. Xylitol is deeply mineralizing and grounding. Just find what works for you. Maple syrup is wonderful. If you get actual true maple syrup, it ties into your inner child and into ancestral memories. And again, is really mineralizing, grounding. Sugar doesn't have a lot of spiritual correlations. It's more of a superficial comfort or an additive that a lot of people use as an emotional crutch. So try to avoid it if you can. If you want to use sugar, then just try to go with the healthiest source that you can, something that's a little mineralizing and hasn't been processed quite as much, just something less refined. You can also use sugar or honey or whatever your source is to add herbs and flavor your honey or your sweetener as well. And so that adds, I make a kava kana honey for my husband for stress that is just amazing. And also I've used blue lotus and honey. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful blend because the blue lotus also pulls in that other aspect of Mary Magdalene for me. So blue lotus and honey is beautiful. Let's see. I use a blend of dried and fresh plants and fruit materials. There aren't a lot of rules out there as far as, blending fresh and dried. But if you want to make a tea that's going to stay in your cupboard for a while, obviously go with dried material so that it doesn't go bad in your cupboard. And then the general rule of thumb, if you're looking at recipes, is 1 teaspoon of dry herb is approximately equal to up to 2 teaspoons of fresh. So the dried herb becomes more concentrated. So when you're looking at recipes, if you're like, well, I don't have dried, but I have fresh, then you need to adjust your amounts a little bit there. And then really shift your perspective from the idea of instigating oracular events to promoting a divine unfolding of living an oracular life. So when I was first testing recipes, I was so gung-ho and I was looking for events. And after a few days, I thought, I'm doing something wrong. This isn't working the way I want it to. And then I realized that I was experiencing an unfolding more than I drank this tea, and 2 hours later, I had this huge astral projection experience. It's more of an awakening and an opening. And it came to me in small ways as well as large, but I received confirmation. Once that twigged for me, I started receiving these confirmations of, yes, that's what's happening. You're on the right track. I had this funny experience where I jumped into Facebook and this man said, how psychic are you? And I thought, giraffe. And then he said, I'm going to think of an object and you're going to make eye contact with me. And he went on for like 5 minutes explaining this experience. And I was sitting there going, just get to the answer. I want to know what you're thinking about. And he got to the end and a picture of a giraffe popped out. And so it just made me laugh because it was like, all he had to do is say, how psychic are you? And I thought of what he hadn't even started thinking about yet. So I had an experience where I was driving my son to work and I visualized this man on a bicycle on the side of the road, cutting straight across me, across 3 lanes to get to the turn lane. And I slammed on my brakes and I scared the life out of my husband. And 2 seconds later, this man, without even looking, just came cruising across right through where we would have been to get to the turn lane. And so I started to realize that these things are happening. These are signs, and they're letting me know that what I'm doing is working. And that's why they're coming so actively and so glaringly, was because I was asking, I'm doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? Why isn't this working for me? I'm trying to do this for a group of people and I have a timeline. And then I started to realize it is working. Um, I had an experience where when Caitlin and I were first talking about this, I mentioned the fact that it was a frequent, the ancient oracles would consume poisons that took them to the brink of physical death and then allowed them to cross the threshold into their astral oracular gifts. And based on a lifetime of extensive herbal research, I believed that to be historical fact and completely true. But then a couple of days later, out of the blue, I had this deep knowing that the reason this idea has become so mainstream is because father culture has attempted to make personal authority and oracular work feel scary and wicked and unattainable. And that oracles knew they had to maintain a healthy, clean vessel in order to do the work that they would do. And so, yes, occasionally, big magic would call for big sacrifice. But as a general rule, oracles took beautiful, immaculate care of their bodies and of their spirits so that they could be everything that they needed to be, as oracles and as witches and as wise women and as priestesses and as leaders. So it was definitely not a part of their everyday practice to consume poisons. I've really been trying to figure out how to describe the process of using tea as a daily part of spiritual growth practice. And habit wasn't the right word. Maintenance caught the gist. But when we had our gathering on May 4th, and I asked the question, per Kathy's instructions, why am I here? What are my oracular gifts and codes of light? And why are they essential? And why now? And I got this answer. But the hinge pin I really want to share is that I was told I am facilitating the birth of a whole new way of being. And then Freddie shared Lucy's message at the end there saying that we are stepping into a new oracular way of being. And then Susan's message had to do with devotion being the oracular floor. And so I realized that what I was missing, the word that was escaping me, was oracular tea is a devotion. It's a practice. It's something that you do to maintain and develop your spirituality and your skill sets. And it's something that's available to us if we're, it's a sacred daily observance that allows us to honor and respect and tap into the sacred beings that we are as individuals. So I'm not going to go through all of these. I'll just post them online. I've got, there's so much amazing spiritual work being done with plant medicines out there. Peyote, mushrooms, ayahuasca, microdosing fly agaric, which is amanita. But we're really focusing on the plant people that grow under our feet to help facilitate our awakening. And they are our allies and our teachers, and they're just waiting to be noticed and tapped on the shoulder and called upon to help us expand and expound upon our journeys, and to root us deeply into our bodies as a part of the natural world. And they're so prolific and ever present, whether you live in the city or the countryside. You go outside and there are what a lot of people would call weeds, what I just call misunderstood herbs, under your feet. And the other day I was on a walking trail in Glen Mills, Pennsylvania, and I realized that right under my feet, I could identify I had horsetail, stinging nettle, wild chamomile, cleavers, plantain, yarrow, uh, henbit. There was dandelion, chickweed, purslane, dog violets within like a 1 foot radius around my feet. And not everybody can recognize what all of those are, but energetically, they're there for all of us, whether you recognize what they are or not. They're there to help us with our journey and our experience. And they're, I don't want to say they're a tool because I feel like they are an ally more than a tool, but it's something that we can really use to progress our journey and to assist us in our bodies. A lot of the difficulties we experience in our bodies, they're blessengers that can facilitate healing and peace, and they can completely alter our experience in our bodies and in the world. And it's just free available medicine. It's out there, and they're accessible to all of us. What I have listed here are more of the spiritual or magical properties that I've experienced with some of these herbs. They're not the medicinal chemical constituent aspects of the herbs, because if I did that, we'd be here all day. But these are some of the things that I've experienced with them. It was really interesting because as I was going along, when I have these aspects in quotes here, these are things that came to me as I was writing them down. And they're not even, a lot of them aren't personal experiences I had with them. These were the herbs telling me that this is what they are used for. And they don't all have the little quotes, but anytime something like that came up for me, Blue Lotus has been amazing for me. Amazing. I have had so many experiences with Mary Magdalene and going through the concept of resurrecting this life through utilizing Blue Lotus. It's definitely one of my favorites and one of my big go-tos. And that's one of the ones that is not a kitchen herb. It's a little harder to get a hold of. I have a couple of great suppliers that I've used in the past on Etsy. So if anyone's interested, let me know. I'm happy to pass along contact information. I do 100 times concentration as what I get. And so it is very powerful stuff. I use a little pinch. I don't use a lot. And so it lasts for quite a long time and it goes a long way. When we look at some of these, it's really, the quotes were interesting to me and kind of shocked me a little bit. Like, skullcap enhances your capacity to create and hold space and be a vessel without feeling overwhelmed. I've never used skullcap that way, but I'm really excited to try it out and just see how that works for me. And then the other one was juniper, because I've been working with juniper since it came to me, and lotus and lily. And as I was writing out juniper, she told me that she was the key to the thresholds and the crossroads and a herb of Hecate, which I had never heard before either. So I have done a lot of research on juniper, and I've never seen anything saying that it's related to Hecate or the crossroads. So it's going to be really interesting to do some more looking through some of these things that came to me. Cacao, great for transmutation, transformation, and shape-shifting. And then lemon balm was another lovely one, giving to receive. And I'm not even sure what that means, but this is the last page that I have here. But I will post all of these online. Galangal root is one that I will mention because not a lot of people have necessarily heard of it. It's one that was used heavily by Hildegard of Bingen. That was one of her standard herbs that she used all the time. And in the South, it's referred to as Low John, and it's used quite often in hoodoo and voodoo work as well, for psychic development, opening third eye, intuition work, and then also for manifestation and conjuring is what it's used for in hoodoo and voodoo. And what I came up with for galangal was that it's deep healing of past lives and releasing karma. And it's funny because I didn't realize that's what I was using that for, but I have used a lot of galangal in my time. It's not the easiest to get a hold of unless you have a really good international market nearby or you live in the South. I think it's more common in the South. But you can find it in international markets. And then the other one that I've experienced recently is true hyssop, because we were doing the Gospel of the Beloved Companion. And so I started to get to know hyssop quite a bit. And I've been using it in my scrying water. I've been using it in a lot of my teas. And it is a herb of Isis. And then it also deals with traveling, benediction, oracular and scrying work. It's used in speaking with the dead and the ancestors. And what she shared with me when I was writing out her information is that she is the spark of life. So it's been really cool at exploring all of those. And that's where I was dealing with herbs on an individual basis. And this is what was shared with me. So I'm excited to see what everybody else gets to do with it and get to know, start small, start with dandelion. Dandelion's everywhere. And she's so beautiful and she's so earthy and healing. And that taproot that she has just pulls you straight down into your root chakra in your body. She's wonderful. And she is one of the most mothering, nurturing plants out there. And you can find her in a sidewalk crack. So, maybe start with her and try to branch out from there. Okay, so we'll just glance at a couple of recipes that I came up with here, and I'm just going to post them online for everybody. This is the one where I added cacao powder after straining my tea. I used cacao, mugwort, thyme, mint leaves, chamomile, hops. If you want to go to sleep with it, hops is amazing for putting you to sleep. If you are taking it in the daytime, maybe skip the hops. And then cinnamon and nutmeg, and then your sweetener of choice. And this was lovely. It was so good. I haven't tried it with the hops yet. I want to try it before bed at some point. But it was wonderful, wonderful. And it's a really fun one to drink. And then I have Pythia tea, where I started with rooibos, mugwort, rosemary, chamomile, lavender, lemon balm, or Melissa officinalis, which is what we have used in our essential oil blend as well. And then bay leaves. That's what she's holding in her hand there. That's that laurel branch. And that's what bay leaves come from, is bay laurel. And then a pinch of the blue lotus. If you get dried blooms of blue lotus, you'll probably use more. I use that concentrate. And this one was probably one of the most powerful for dreaming for me. I had amazing, amazing dreams on this with this tea. And then this one is just black tea, mugwort, culinary sage, nettle leaf, which is one of my favorites, one of the most mineralizing, deeply nurturing, mothering herbs you can have out there. Yarrow flowers, dried elderberries, skullcap, and honey. And again, a lot of these are nervines. And so nervines calm your nervous system. They calm your vagus nerve. They calm your body, and they eliminate a lot of the hormones that promote stress and anxiety. The other one that, the other classification that is amazing is the adaptogen herbs. And what they do is they allow your body to adapt to stress. And whatever those stressors are, if they're environmental, if they're toxins or pesticides in the air, adaptogens help your body to cope and to process and to push that stuff out. If it's high cortisol levels, your body helps you to adapt and to get those cortisol levels down. And when your body's producing cortisol, it can't produce other hormones. So if you are in high stress, high anxiety, you are not producing your normal balancing hormones in your body. Everything else shuts down so that cortisol can be produced. So those adaptogens and the nervines really help to bring your body back into balance if you're dealing with a lot of cortisol. Because you're not making estrogen or progesterone or testosterone or anything else if you have cortisol being processed and produced. And then the last one I have here is the hedge rider. I think this is the last one. Yeah, this is my last one. So the hedge rider or threshold crossing tea, I started with oolong the first time, and then the second time I made it, I did it without oolong, and without oolong, this tea smells just like petrichor to me, which is like that land after rain, like wet concrete. It was so delicious and so amazing that I've started making it without the oolong. It doesn't have a lot of flavor, but it is one of my favorite smells in the world. So I don't know why this combination makes a petrichor smell without the oolong, but it does. So this became one of my favorites just because it smells so divine. And then you only ever want to use fully dried raspberry leaf. This is one of those herbs that you cannot use fresh. It will give you a lot of stomach upset if you use raspberry leaf fresh. So make sure you only use dried. If you do any foraging, make sure it's dried properly. And that is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead and post these recipes, and I'll post the herb list. If anyone's interested in a list of nervines and adaptogens, I've got a really thorough list I've compiled of those in the past. I haven't updated it in a while, but I can just send out what I've got for anybody who's interested in exploring those a little more as well. But I would just say, everybody go out there and get to know what is growing under your feet. And I'm open to questions if people want to share what they've been exploring or their favorite herbs. I'd love to hear it.
I have a question. I have a pitcher that has like a little strainer thing in the spout, and I've been buying organic parsley and throwing it into the pitcher and then just filling it up with water and sticking it in the refrigerator. And it's really yummy. It has sort of a tanginess to it that I really like. I find it really refreshing in hot weather. But after a couple of days, it starts to get a little cloudy, and then I throw it out. So I have two questions. One is, what's the right amount of parsley to use? And number two, should I take it out? Like after 24 hours, should I pull the parsley out of the water?
Yes, so I'm glad you brought up the parsley water because we talked about this before, and it has amazing body system benefits because it helps to bind and process toxins from plastics to heavy metals. And it helps to decalcify the pineal gland. So if you've been consuming more fluoride than your body wants to put up with, that calcifies your pineal gland. And then your pineal gland is not producing chemicals because it's basically a crystal. And so you need to decalcify that pineal gland. And parsley tea is amazing for that. I would say after you let it sit overnight, take the plant matter out and then keep the tea in the fridge, and it won't get that marshy taste or look to it. It'll look a lot prettier, and that's enough time for the minerals and all of the nutrients to draw into the water. So,
Okay.
and you had
good.
another question. What was your other question?
Yeah, it was the amount. Like my husband does his shopping, he brings back like a, I don't know, prepackaged, organic thing, and I wash it and put about half of it in the pitcher, but I don't know if that's really like too much, too little. So what's your recommended amount?
Your body will let you know if that feels good and you're not feeling like a little bit off, stomach
No, I
sick,
don't.
like you're processing too much, too many toxins at once. The fact that it's a chelator, the fact that it binds the toxins is great because it's not releasing it back into your bloodstream. So you shouldn't feel sick on it
No,
ever.
I don't.
If you are, it means you've got something else going on that you probably need an extra chelator to help process heavy metal poisoning or something along those lines. But as long as you're feeling good on it, it's great for your digestive system. It's great for, a basic cleanse, a really light cleanse. So I think what you're doing is great. If it ever feels like too much, or if you start getting headaches, just back off on it a little bit and go
Thank
for
you
less.
very much.
Yeah. Kathy.
What about the spring flowers? Can they just go into the water? We have lilac, the tiny little what are violets, and then wild roses. Dry them, just put them in.
I love them just in. I think with hot water, if you're doing a quick hot tea, you're going to want to drink it pretty quickly because they start to deteriorate and they lose all of those lovely volatile oils. But if you do something like the moon tea or anything along those lines, just put them in fresh and they add such a lovely floral sweetness to your work as well. I think
So
energy
maybe
and flavor wise.
maybe do it like what Susan was saying, put them into cold water and let it sit overnight and then refrigerate it. Because it does, yeah, if you don't drink the hot tea right away, then it does get that swampy.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely, they start to break down pretty quickly because they're so delicate and they bruise so easily.
Yeah.
Nasturtiums are another one that are amazing in tea. If you grow nasturtiums, they're lovely in iced tea.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. And Henrietta.
Yes, thank you. When you talk about the teas expelling toxins from our bodies, what might that look like on the surface of our skin?
So that is one where if you start getting, if you have very sensitive skin and if you experience a lot of toxicity in other ways, you may need to involve other chelators, as I was saying before. If you start to get eczema breakouts, anything along those lines, that could be an indicator that things are getting into your bloodstream as they're flushing. So there are malic acid, EDTA. There's several other chelators that you can use. Activated charcoal. That's another really good and easy one that you can take, especially if it feels like it's promoting digestive distress. Activated charcoal is amazing for just absorbing whatever is causing the problem and flushing it. So if you experience skin eruptions or, sometimes if it's like a little bit of acne, something along those lines, it's just your skin also trying to work things out and push things out while your body's doing a great spring clean. But if it's like heavy eczema or something that's really itchy or uncomfortable or hives or anything along those lines, you may either need to slow it and pull it back just a little bit and take your detox a little more slowly, or add some other chelators in there to really help push it, to bind things and push them out of the system more quickly.
Thank you. My second question is regarding the recipes that you provided. What quantity of tea should those recipes produce?
So I have been doing them in my teapot here, and with my big cup, when I fill it to about there, that's usually about 2 cups, 2 large teacups. So I would say it's like 2 servings for what I've added in the recipes there. And if you do fewer ingredients, then you just want to add a little more of each of those ingredients to get a good flavorful, effective tea.
What are you drinking now?
This one is, I have sweet woodruff and I have bay leaves. And I just added a bunch of things from the garden, just trying to prepare because I was feeling so stressed out. And I've got a hyssop in there and several other things just to try and calm me down a little bit before I was presenting. And it has rooibos tea as the base. Okay, and Kathy.
So you talked about and today doesn't count, but on a regular day, you talked about with your daughter special tea events, but how do you think about your tea? Do you think about it like where you want to go or how you want to make your body feel better? Do you make this like first thing in the morning and then you have it for the rest of the day? Like just what's your approach knowing so much about it? How do you look at the tea?
So I utilize tea for maintenance. And then now I've started using it as devotion. So that's a newer practice for me, using it as devotion. But when I have used it for maintenance, I've used the really deeply mineralizing teas, and I usually do a moon tea. And it's things like red clover, which helps with balancing female hormones like you wouldn't believe. It's amazing. And milky oats, stinging nettle is a huge one for me. I have like 5-pound bags of stinging nettle that I use for soup and for teas and things all the time because it just helps to replenish those minerals that we are constantly using up. And if you don't have them, they're great. If you don't like the flavor of water, honey and nettle tea, iced tea is an amazing replacement because it's mineralizing your body constantly. And if you drink plain water that doesn't contain minerals, it will leach minerals out of your body and flush them out because minerals are drawn to water. So drinking something that's already heavily mineralized is very nurturing. So I've always used them before as, either as dosage. So like stomach upset, okay, let's do some fenugreek and ginger tea. Or, I've kind of used them as medicine and maintenance, I guess. And now I'm getting more into the devotion and the oracular maintenance pieces for myself as well. Did I answer all of your questions? I don't know if I missed anything in there.
So you do you make one every day in the morning and then have that all day?
I make one at night and
Oh,
then
okay.
it steeps all night and then it's there ready for me in the morning. And then when we do ceremony or ritual of any kind, my daughter loves being the one to make our lattes for the full moon. So she'll make the rose and cardamom lattes and I just have the mix there ready for her. And then when we're doing, I also have a Japanese tea set, and with those there are a lot of ceremonies in place where you actually pour the tea over the outside of the teapot and over the outside of the cups. So you have a tray which catches the liquid underneath through a mesh. And when you do that, it nurtures the clay cups and the clay teapot. And over time, they develop this sheen to them and it stops your clay cups from cracking and things. So a lot of times I'll make it in another pot and then I'll pour it over the dragon teapot and over the teacups so that it can maintain my pot and my cups and things. So it just depends on what we're approaching with it. And we do a lot of oolong and jasmine green and some of the traditional oriental teas as well, just because I enjoy them so much. So those are kind of my calming, nurturing teas. And then the herbs are like better body practices, I guess. Okay, and Henrietta, do you still have a question or was your hand still
I
up?
do. I
Okay.
do. Two things I have to say. The only thing today, and I came in late, better than listening to you, has been watching Janet's expressions. But
I always love watching Janet's expressions when she listens to herself too. The watch party is awesome. Sorry, Janet, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I love watching you listen to yourself. You get so excited.
I know you encouraged us to start with simple herbs, but I'm wondering if the blends that you presented today or other blends that you have are available for sale. Because I would love to just be able to purchase the blends already made and not try to do international shopping for the different high grades of tea.
Yeah. I haven't, I've done it for folks before, but I don't have anything in bulk together. But if you are interested in any of these particular blends or in something else, and you wanted to, talk with me on it and we could come up with something specific to you, I am always happy to put something together and, figure out getting it to you and things. I have all of the ingredients for all of the teas here that I've listed, and I always buy them in bulk. So, we can talk. Let's talk and we'll figure out what you're interested in and excited about, and I can get something put together for you.
That would be
And video.
fantastic. Thank you.
Of course. And Janet, I apologize if I embarrassed you about watching you
Oh,
while you
no, it's true.
listen to yourself.
I
Okay.
watch myself like, who is that? And I'm so glad Henrietta asked you that question, because do you understand what just happened to you as a result of making this presentation? Henrietta brought it up, but the rest of us looking at that list are going, can I just buy it from you? Come on. So I think it's time for Branwen's teas to come into existence.
I can do that. And some of them are not easy to get a hold of, like true hyssop. And I found plants. So I'm growing plants and I can get that dried and processed, and I would love to share.
It's just like Emma creates the oils for us. And there's no way that I want to try to figure out which oils and which blend. No, Mary Magdalene and Emma can create them. So I'm with Henrietta. And we could have individual chats with you for what's right for me, but you've just birthed a business, Branwen.
I would love to work with everybody on that. If you are interested, or if we want a specific tea blend that we get out to everyone to experience, I'm happy to do that too.
So related to that, just like you said, okay, for ceremonies, on Sunday, we're having our closing ceremony. So what tea were you planning on bringing? And obviously on such short notice, we're not in a position to go, but maybe you could give us some advice about a ceremonial oracular tea.
Yeah, I would love to. So I would say if we want to do something all together, we're going to want to do something that's easily accessible. Whether it's fresh kitchen herbs. Let me do a little exploration on what would be a good, really easy blend that we should all be able to get together just going to the grocery store or should have in-house. I'll tell you what, bay leaves have been amazing. They have been wonderful to work with, and everybody has bay leaves. Even if you don't know why you have them in your kitchen, it seems like everybody has bay leaves.
Well, and that's Pythia because she's holding a laurel. So can I just make it with bay leaves only?
Bay does not have a lot of flavor. So I would start, if you just want to drink water with bay leaves in it so that it has the energy of the bay leaf in it, I think that is
even if it's cold water, even if it's, just water here, it doesn't have to be hot.
No, just put a bay leaf in it for the energy of it and for bringing Pythia in. I think that would be just fine too.
Okay.
It's just not going to add any flavor.
So if you think of any other simple things, I can include it when I send out the Zoom and the agenda where it says things to bring, I could say, okay, here are 1 or 2 ideas for your oracular tea. All right, and then connected with that, I'm sure Dandelion is thinking the same way I am, for devotion. For devotion. Let's really, with you leading the way, come up with an array or even one. This is our devotion tea.
I would love that.
Dandelion. So I have one more thing. Dandelion, your name is Dandelion. Okay. So wouldn't a witch like Dandelion making dandelion tea have a, I don't know, an intimate, like I'm called whalebone, so I don't know, putting old whale bones in hot water. I don't know that that's such a good idea. But have you done that, Kathy? Have you?
I haven't made the tea, but I always in the summer make a dandelion salad because it's a really warm memory that I have my grandmother who lived in the garden and always had dirt under her nails. She made a special dressing. I can still taste the dressing. I can't duplicate it yet, but I'm working on it with the dandelion, the leaves. So I'm gonna try the tea. But yes, consuming dandelion all summer, absolutely. Yeah.
You can get dandelion leaves in the health food store, and they're amazing. It's a very bitter leaf.
Yeah.
Do you want to add things like lemon and something to kind of cut some of the bitterness with it? But it's
She made a pretty
wonderful.
sweet dressing, and I haven't been able to get it yet right, but and it had yellow mustard, like you're
I
saying.
know where to find that, Kathy. I don't know why, but on my phone, you know how it shows you things to watch. And I watch all of Jacques Pepin's little cooking things. And he one day, and I watch them, even though I never make any of it, but he made a dandelion leaf salad and saying that his mother made it. And it was just this much dandelion leaves. And I remember it had mustard in the dressing. So see if you can Google Jacques Pepin, dandelion, whatever.
Okay. All right.
And Susan.
Branwen, along with selling teas, you did mention that you could easily do a 6-week course. I would really be interested in that because you just touched on all kinds of things, and my little, my little neurons are firing, but I'm like, oh, I'd like to know more about this and this and this and this.
I would love to do that too. Yeah. Let me see what I can. Oh, you just had a cat sneeze.
That's Benjamin. He has allergies. He's behind me here, and he's sneezing, but he's fine.
Yes, I would love. That's been a dream of mine for a very long time, and I have the certification to back it up. So I know that they really a lot of places require that you have that base knowledge. So that would be amazing. I'll have to start thinking about that moving forward.
So we could have a special, as just like we're having a special cafe in divination, Kathy and I will make sure that there are special cafes in devotion. Not that that's a substitute for a 6-week intensive, but we could talk about devotional teas, devotional oils, devotional herbs. Yeah, Kathy and I we're just in the baby stages of devotion starting to speak to us. So I interrupted you, Whisper. I'm sorry.
Never a problem, Janet, never. Thank you, Bronwyn. It's just been amazing, all the things that you've shared. And I just want to give a shout out to the group about the tea leaf reading too. about 8 months ago in a little tiny shop in downtown Murphy, this woman did a tea leaf reading class. And I talked my daughter-in-law, who was staying with us at the time, into going with me. And it was so much fun. And it might be something that in the pods, the people who can actually get together in person would enjoy doing. And it was a very small group. I think there were 4 or 5 of us. And after we turned the cups over, we had a piece of paper and we wrote down what we saw in our own cups. And then we passed the cup to the next person, and the next person wrote down what they saw, and all around the room, without talking about it, until everybody had had a chance to see what they saw without any interference, and then write it down. And then each of us shared, and it was so much fun and a learning process for sure. But practicing those oracular skills in that way, especially with a group, was really, really fun. So I just wanted to share that and invite people to do it. I'm jealous of those who live in the same area and can get together to do things like that.
I love that idea, exploring it in pods.
You could also just take pictures and post them with, blank numbers, and you could all write down your notes individually instead of passing it around a room. So it could still be done digitally.
Branwen, thank you. Oh my gosh.
You're
Branwen,
welcome.
what
Yeah.
was the name of those books from which you got the Tara saying?
Ink and Honey.
Ink and Honey. Is this?
Yes, Janet, we were just talking about this the other day. What is the author's name? Can you remind me?
It's in my bedroom. I'll go get it.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean for you to have to get up.
Is this fiction or nonfiction?
It is fiction. But she also writes a spiritual guide on how to utilize. It's basically about the Beguines.
Oh, cool.
It's beautiful. I loved it. I loved the book. I really,
Ink and Honey.
yeah, Ink and
Oh,
Honey.
it says I already own it on Kindle.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is what it looks like.
The Sisters of Belcour, a community of radically independent healers. Okay.
Yeah, Sybil Dana Reynolds. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. It's lovely. And the symbol of Belcour is a blue cross in a circle. And so Janet and I got to talking about it because it's like our elemental.
Pars Fortuna.
Yeah.
Janet, hold up the book again, and I'm going to spotlight you.
Ink and Honey. There's the title. And there's the author, Sylvia Dana.
There's a spiritual companion guidebook to it.
Yes, and I like that book as well.
I don't have that yet.
She teaches all kinds of classes and things. I've never gotten involved in all of those processes, but I love the spiritual practices of the Beguines. So
if we
probably all were Beguines once upon a time.
If we want to have a tea group of people that are interested in this, I can take down everybody's names and start an email like I have for the grimoire and like I have for tarot.
Yeah, you could host it.
Would that be helpful? And then when Branwen makes your tea that we're all going to get, we can communicate that way. Does that seem like a good idea? All right, so I will work on that.
thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, when Sharon said, it feels really big to me. I know I have some herbs already, but just the idea of, oh my God, which blue lotus, it matters.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
It would be so much easier to
Call Branwen.
send you money and get the tea and be so happy.
I can do
Hey,
that. Yeah. I would love to
hey,
put some together.
Branwen, how do you spell Turah?
Turah.
Turah.
Yes.
Oh, there it is. I got it. I was doing a word search
Oh, nice.
on the Kindle edition.
That's how I finish all of my personal prayers is Turah, Turah. So.
Okay, I found the first occurrence is at the beginning of a prayer. We pray for the four-legged. Oh, it's a sort of a rosary. Before bed each evening, we spoke our prayers into each of the 12 green beads strung in a circle on Myrtle's mother round, a kind of rosary of her own making. We pray for the four-legged ones in the forest and meadow, for creeping ones on the ground, and it goes on for a while. Then it ends up with bless our dreams with your wisdom, protect our night journeys. Okay, so the last part is the day is over, the darkness comes, protect our night journeys in sleep, bless our dreams with your wisdom, and wake us with your morning light. Turah, Turah.
That's lovely.
It is. It's lovely.
Okay. It appears, the phrase appears 14 times in the book. Guess that's a magical number.
Branwen, one quick question on
Yes.
the kava kana tea that you mentioned that you make for your husband. Do you use extract for that, or the actual root and plant?
So I get my kava is more available and out
Yeah.
there. Hana is not as easy to get a hold of, and so I use the same. I keep trying to say dealer, and that's not accurate because it's not an illicit substance. It's fine. It's just they call themselves dealers on Etsy, but it's
I have a deal.
my
I have
source.
a dealer. I have a dealer as well.
My source on Etsy where I get my Blue Lotus is the same source I use to get the Kana, and
Yeah.
it is outstanding and it's so concentrated. It's also 100 times concentrate.
Is it liquid or powder?
It's powder.
Okay.
And I've made him tea, but I also do it in honey where I just blend them in the powders into the honey, and he just takes a spoonful of honey, and it lasts for ages because honey doesn't go bad, and so it keeps the herbs.
Yeah, I'm a big kava drinker. I drink it all the time. So, but I haven't really played with kana, and I mean it's about everywhere here in Florida because like we have a lot of kava bars here, so
Yeah.
like a lot of them also sell kana and kratom. I drink a lot of kratom tea as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The blend of the two is.
Yeah, I haven't had them together. I've had a little bit of kana and kratom extract together. And that's a really nice buzz if you're looking for a buzz.
It's like instant mellow. It's pretty. Oh, I do have kava and kana in my tea today too. So yeah, but it's wild because you'll take it and within seconds your tongue starts to buzz just a little bit.
That's the
and
kana.
you get
Or
like
the kava.
this instant, and then you get this instant calm. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I love kava. Actually, I should have grabbed some before this too.
I do too.
Thank
you. Of course. I can share my source with you, Tony, if you're interested. If you'd like to know.
That sounds so funny.
My dealer. I'll share my dealer.
So it feels like the only way to end this is blowing on our embers for our beloved sister, Branwen, and the birth of her new herbal businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Gratitude.